हेलो, गुड मॉर्निंग। अच्छा,
गुड
ऑनलाइन
मॉर्निंग।
कल जस्ट बिफोर द क्लास एंडेड कोई कुछ पूछ रहा था, बट यहाँ पे लोड शेडिंग हो गया था, तो इसीलिए आई कुडंट टेक दैट क्वेश्चन। किसी को कुछ पूछना था कल?
मैम, मेरे को ये पूछना था कि जो रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर्स है वो अभी रियल टाइम में अपलोड हो रहे हैं या फिर थोड़े दिनों बाद अपलोड होंगे, क्योंकि वो मेरे को मिल नहीं रहे थे।
I think they are going to be uploaded by the end of this week. I'll still check and get back to you about this.
ओके मैम।
Cool. Okay. Any other questions, doubts from last two classes? All good? Perfect. ठीक है. So today, like I said, we are going to move on with algebra. We'll be doing again a quick breeze through quadratic equations and simultaneous equations. Starting with quadratic equations. What are quadratic equations?
The
Polynomial
highest power is 2.
Okay. Polynomial equations with degree 2, highest power is 2. अच्छा, ये सब जो भी बोल रहे हो, these are all for expressions. Here we are talking about equations. What is the difference between an expression and an equation? Okay. And what about terms? What are terms? Right. So multiple terms make up expressions like polynomials. And when we equate two expressions to each other, when we have a left hand side and a right hand side that are equal to each other, then they are called equations. Okay. And yes, like you correctly pointed out, quadratic expressions are those where degree of polynomial, which you in layman terms said highest power, for quadratic expressions it is, or quadratic polynomials it is kitna? 2. Okay. And like we discussed yesterday, whatever is the degree of the polynomial, how many terms will there be? One more than the degree. Okay, because that will be for to the power 0 या फिर the constant part. Now, what are quadratic equations in that case? Quadratic equations are equations that are in the nature of this form. Okay. This is a quadratic equation. And यहाँ पे there is a very strict condition for it to be a quadratic equation. Any guesses what does it need to be? X is not equal to 0, nahi. P can't be equal to 0, because if P is 0, then it will become a linear equation, because the degree of the equation will become 1. Okay. So very important condition is P can't be equal to 0. Now we know कि whatever is the degree, we will get those many values of x, right? तो यहाँ पे degree is 2. So when we are solving a quadratic equation, we are supposed to get two solutions to the value of x. What are those solutions called? They are called roots of the equation, roots of the quadratic, or zeros of the quadratic. Why zeros? Zeros of the quadratic, because if we input those values of x, then that quadratic polynomial becomes 0. That's why we call them roots or zeros. Now, how do we solve these? How do we solve these quadratics? We'll do multiple methods. First one will be factorization. What is factorization? कोई भी polynomial को when we try to write as a product of few expressions, then that is called breaking it up into factors. Factors क्या होते हैं? Elements of a product, right? तो the first method is factorization. उसमें what will we try to do? We will try to make the quadratic polynomial a factor of two expressions. ठीक है? Because usually when it's a quadratic polynomial, two factors ही हो पाते हैं. Three factors बहुत कम नहीं होगा, because three factors आती. What will it mean? It will mean x with something, x with something, and x with something. So you can see कि we have three x's. So when we'll multiply all of these, we are likely to get an x cube term. Okay. Acha. Before we move on to factorization, quickly there were two things just to ensure कि you don't sit with unnecessary presumptions in your head. Tell me whether these two are quadratic polynomials or not. Exact. पहले quadratic polynomials नहीं, quadratic equations only. I'm giving you equations. Try tell me कि ये quadratic होंगे कि नहीं होंगे. दोनों होंगे. पहला वाला नहीं होगा, दूसरा वाला होगा.
पहले वाला नहीं।
क्यों? हाउ कम? सेकंड वाले में तो वी हैव अ पावर ऑफ 3.
मैम एक्स स्क्वायर कट हो जाएगा, कैंसिल आउट हो जाएगा.
एक्स क्यूब कट हो जाएगा.
सॉरी मैम.
X cube, when we try expanding it, then x cube will get reduced. And on the other hand, जो first वाला है, उसमें we can see कि we only have two factors on both sides. But again, x square will get reduced, so it will remove all x square terms. We'll be left with a linear equation. Let's quickly solve this over here. X square plus x plus 8 is equal to x square plus 2x minus 2x. So this is a linear equation. Part 2, x plus 2 whole cube का expansion, a cube plus b cube plus 3ab, a square b, sorry, 3a square b, इसको 6 कर देते हैं, and 3ab square. So 3 into 4, 12. 6x square plus 12x plus 12 is equal to 0. Hence, this is quadratic. When the degree of the polynomial on the left hand side is 3, those equations are called cubic equations. Okay? We won't be solving those, but for knowledge purposes, they are called cubic. Now, if we start looking at how we solve for the roots or the zeros of the quadratic. First method we'll be doing is factorization. So for factorization, if let's say, let's start doing it with an example, and then we'll do the general method also. Let's say this is our quadratic. Okay. Now in three terms, can we take out a common factor? No, we can't. So we will need at least four terms so that we can do 2 and 2. Usme se common we can take out. Now for taking out two different factors, we will need something that is common between both of them, right? So how do we break this equation such that we have four terms which will fall into perfect factors? The method is, we know that we represent, actually let me write it as ax square bx and c. The method to do this is, we need to break up b. इसको बोलते हैं मिड टर्म ब्रेक. Okay, the middle term, which is basically the coefficient of x power 1, we need to break that up such that the sum should be equal to b, because obviously add up करके b करना है, we can't make a change to the equation itself. So the sum of both needs to be b, and the product of both needs to be a into c. The product needs to be a into c. तो यहाँ पे in this example, what do we need to break up? We need to break up -7, which is the coefficient of x. Always remember, sign also matters. तो इसलिए we have to break up -7. We don't have to break up only 7. How can we break up -7? पहले we'll look at the sum, because we know those two numbers need to add up to 7. क्या क्या options होते हैं? We have -2, -5. We have -3, -4. What else do we have? We have -9 plus 2, -8 plus 1, and so on. We can have multiple such cases. We need to zero down on the one. Just say product is 12 into 1. यहाँ पे right now there is no coefficient. But we have to keep this in mind so that in case ever there is a coefficient, we take that into account. So 12 into 1, product of both the broken up numbers or the coefficients needs to be 12. 12 के table में which of these combinations can fall? Which of these two can multiply and give us 12?
3 and 4.
-3 and -4. Again, यहाँ पे भी sign matters. This is a +12. This is a +12. So we need the answer also as +12. So suppose let's say there was a case -3 plus 4. That would not fall here, because -3 into +4 would give us -12, but we need a +12. Okay, so we are basically going to go ahead with this one. So let's break this up. X square minus 3x minus 4x plus 12 is equal to 0. Now we'll start factorizing. इसमें we can take x common. क्या होगा? X minus 3. इसमें we can take -4 common. So we'll have x minus 3. Aim is that whatever we are leaving inside the bracket needs to be the same. Why does it need to be the same? So that from this overall thing, now we are going to take x minus 3 common. And we'll be left with x minus 4. Understood? Now, after this step, if I'm saying the product of two things is 0, one of them has to be 0. It could be either of them. So it could be x minus 3 is equal to 0 also. It could be x minus 4 is equal to 0 also. And these are the two roots or the two zeros of the quadratic. back testing, if we input 3 or 4 in this, यहाँ पे if we put 3, 3 square 9, 9 minus 7 into 3 21 plus 12 क्या आएगा 0. If we input 4, 4 square 16, 7 fours 28 plus 12 again 0. Hmm? Any other value you'll try putting in instead of x in this equation, you will not get 0. Okay, so that is how we do factorization. Now I'm going to quickly give you 2 3 sums so that you all can practice. Mm, 2/3 and minus half first वाला का. Second क्या √2/√3 मतलब root of 2/3. What is the midterm split? Product needs to be minus 12 and sum needs to be minus 1. तो minus 12 का product के लिए we can have 4 and 3. And we need it to be minus 1. So minus 4 plus 3. Any doubts in this? Any doubts? किसी को भी? Clear first one. Now coming to the second one. 3x square minus 2 root 6x plus 2. Sub needs to be minus 2 root 6 and product needs to be 6. So what can we have? We know product को 6 करने के लिए we'll need root 6 into root 6, and we can do minus root 6 into minus root 6. Minus root 6 minus root 6 is minus 2 root 6. What will we take out common? Root 3x. ठीक है. If we take out root 3x common, first term में we are left with a root 3x again, and इसमें minus root 2. इसमें we will take out again minus root 3 common. Sorry, minus root 2 and root 3x minus root 2. The values for x becomes, इसमें से it will become root 2 by root 3, and from the other factor also it becomes root 2 by root 3, which means both the roots are the same. So there can always be the case, ऐसा I have not mentioned ever कि roots need to be unique. We can have the same two roots for a quadratic equation. Any doubts in this? Root 6 by 3 वो कट करके. Okay. Next, तो ये हुआ factorization. Now, not for number 1, it is not easy to always take out factors or always split the midterm into the desired factors. Number 2, it is not always possible also कि we can do it. So for those cases, we have another method, which is Sridharacharya's formula, which is also the quadratic equation formula. According to that, we need two roots. याद है किसी को फॉर्मूला श्रीधराचार्य?
माइनस बी
माइनस बी प्लस माइनस रूट ओवर बी स्क्वायर माइनस डिवाइडेड बाय 2a. हमेशा याद रखना, दिस माइनस इज ओनली फॉर द b, not for the entire equation. y plus minus, one root we'll get by adding and one root we'll get by subtracting. Denominator में please don't forget to multiply the two. अब इसमें दिस इज द फॉर्मूला, श्रीधराचार्य's फॉर्मूला, जिससे ए बी सी वी नो कि क्या क्या है एज पर द क्वाड्रेटिक. आई एम राइटिंग इट हियर अगेन. ax square plus bx plus c equal to 0. A is the coefficient of x square, b is the coefficient of x, and c is the constant of the quadratic equation. ठीक है. Now in this, ये जो स्क्वायर रूट के अंदर वाला पार्ट है, not even this much, only this part, this is called the discriminant. What is discriminating? What does discriminating mean? नहीं, normal English में what is the meaning of discriminating? To basically differentiate. हाँ. Why is this called a discriminant? Because the roots of x का जो value है, that is mainly determined by the nature of b square minus 4ac. Okay, so this is called the discriminant because only by seeing what is the value of b square minus 4ac can we decide or can we infer कि what are the roots going to look like. ठीक है. Now how do we do that? Let's name this D. If the discriminant can have three kinds of values. It can be equal to 0, it can be greater than 0, it can be less than 0, right? तीन types के value हो सकते हैं. If the discriminant is 0, logically tell me, it means square root के अंदर 0 है. So whether we add or subtract is irrelevant. Both the roots are going to be the same, which will be minus b by 2a, like in our second example abhi. So we will have equal roots. Sign also same. Absolutely equal roots. If d is greater than 0, that means कि square root के अंदर में there is a positive number, and that positive number का root we are going to take out. When we add it will give a separate answer. Subtract it, separate answer. But it will be real because square root के अंदर it's a positive number. So they will be unique real roots. Let's say square root के अंदर negative number है, which means the discriminant is less than 0. In that case, what happens? We know negative roots are complex numbers. So since we have a complex number now in this scene, that means the entire root becomes complex, the entire value becomes complex, but two different answers, because addition se we'll get one, subtraction se we'll get one. So we'll again have unique roots. Both roots will be different, but they will be imaginary. They will be imaginary. And if we have to simply calculate the roots of the equation, so we can just apply this formula and we can arrive at the roots of the equation. कोई doubt? Okay, let's do a question. पहले just tell me the nature of the roots. Okay, 3x square minus 2x plus 1/3 is equal to 0. What will be the nature of the roots? अच्छा, in this case ये भी याद रखना, whenever there are equal roots, what will be the value of the roots? What will be the, do we have to put the entire formula? Minus b by 2a, क्योंकि the entire discriminant part just goes away. Equal roots, right? So what is the discriminant? B square is minus 2 square minus 4 into a into c, which is equal to 0. Discriminant is 0 and roots क्या होंगे? Minus b by 2a. Minus b मतलब minus of minus 4 by 2 into a. Sorry, कितना होगा? 1/3. क्या होगा रियल रूट्स का वैल्यू? हम्म ओके, क्विकली सॉल्व करते हैं। इसका डिस्क्रिमिनेंट बी स्क्वायर माइनस 4 into a into c, 16 minus 24 minus 8, 2x square plus 3x minus 5 is equal to 0. Discriminant is minus b, sorry,
9.
b square minus 4 into a into c. 3 square is 9 and 4 twos are 8. 8 into 5 40 minus minus plus, so 49, which is greater than 0 and not equal to 0 also, therefore real unique roots. And क्या होंगे वो roots? We'll calculate using formula minus b plus minus root over 49 ऑलरेडी कैलकुलेट कर चुके हैं हम लोग डिस्क्रिमिनेंट बाय 2a. क्या क्या होंगे? -3 -7 इज and 4/4. Clear? Any doubts? Okay, very good. Now we did the formula. अब ये जो formula है, if we try to understand the logic behind it, there is a method called completing the square. Okay, completing the square में क्या होता है? The point is कि we are trying to make the quadratic equation in a way where on the left hand side we have a square term, a factor into the same factor, and on the right hand side we have a constant. So using that, what do? When we know कि x square is equal to, let's say, n, so we can take square roots on both sides and we can calculate two values of x, which will be plus n and minus n. So that logic is completing the square. Quickly, let's try to see ki how do we complete the square. We'll do it with an example only. Let's say 4x square minus 8x plus 1. This is our equation. Okay. What do we need to do? We need to express this in a form ऐसे form में we need to put it. Why px plus q whole square? This is becoming one whole square. इसका breakup क्या होएगा? p square x square plus q square plus 2pqx, and minus r is equal to 0. Now this minus r can be anything. We can manipulate this value by ourselves. So if we try to put this equation in this form, how can we do it? We know कि p square क्या है, right? 2pqx वाला टर्म कौन सा होगा? ये होगा. q square and minus r both are constants, but in our quadratic we have only one constant. So what do we need to do? We need to adjust the constant. So how do we start? We always first see a square क्या है या p square क्या है. In our case p square is 2 square. We can write 4 as 2 square, x square. Next we'll move on to this term. We won't do q square right now. Why will we move on to this term? Because जो x वाला term है, we can't manipulate that. तो we know कि 2 तो होना ही होगा. We know +2 तो होना ही होगा. And we also know p का value now. What is p का value? This is p का value. So this will also go. Now we need to determine q का value. How do we determine q का value? We need to, and यहाँ पे x भी हो गई. q का value कैसे determine करेंगे? This entire thing should make -8. Now how do we arrive at -8? We already have 2 into 2, 4. We need into -2, right? -2 डाल दिए. Then now we know the value of q. तो q square कितना होगा? -2 square 4. अब क्या बचा? Now we are left with 1. I would suggest कि हमेशा क्या करो, यहाँ पे हम लोग का स्क्वायर कंप्लीट हो गया, राइट? अब ये हम लोग जो 4 ऐड किए उसके लिए we'll have to subtract a 4. We'll have to subtract because every time we add we have to simultaneously subtract, and we have the +1 remaining. We have the +1 remaining. So now -4 and +1 both are constants. We'll solve for them. Starting say, if you put this habit that you are not sitting and estimating ki if I have 1 already and I have added 4 to 3 hona chahiye, don't do that. Simply just put the numbers in, because in an exam scenario the more complicated thoughts you start getting into your head, the more chances of you getting nervous and you making silly mistakes increases. Okay, तो यहाँ पे now we know p square x square plus 2pqx plus q square हो गया. How do we write it as px plus q whole square? It will be 2x. q कितना है? q is not 2,
-2.
-2 है. -2 whole square. And यहाँ पे क्या बचा? -4 and +1 is -3 is equal to 0. Okay, so can we say 2x minus 2 whole square is equal to 3? We can say this. And now can we solve for x? We know इससे we can get 2 roots. 2x minus 2 is equal to +3, or 2x minus 2 is equal to -3. हाँ, I was putting square over there. Right? Solve for x. क्या आ रहे x के values? √3 plus 2/2. तो कितना होगा वो? Whole by 2. And what about the other one? Always prefer minus, बाद में डालो. ठीक है? Any doubts? Quickly एक और completing the square का. ये समझ आया? How do we complete the square? Only stick to this method. Don't try shortcuts ki this should be equal to -b by a or this, क्योंकि already quadratic equations is a chapter where we already have some formulas. So if you try remembering too many things, then chances you will forget or you will mix up formulas. Secondly, exam hall में बैठ के the more intuitively you think, the chances of making mistakes gets lesser. क्योंकि you are actually sitting and explaining to yourself the logic behind each step. Okay. um okay, Trisha, sure, I'll explain when we do the examples again. Okay. Yes, ma'am, I want you all to practice a little more, क्योंकि और किसी का हुआ है फर्स्ट वाला? चलो, let's try out the first one. The question is, or the equation is minus 3x square plus 13x minus 1 is equal to 0. तो सबसे पहले तो our term needs to be p square x square, right? So we can't have a minus 3 sitting here because no matter what the term is, a square can never be negative. So what do we need to do? We need to make it positive. How do we make an equation positive? दूसरे साइड पे 0 है तो we can multiply, divide whatever on both sides. तो let's multiply across by -1. तो -1 करते ही all signs of this equation will change. Okay, that is the first step. Then next step क्या है? To determine the value of p. p square क्या है? 3. So what is p? If p square is 3, root 3, p square x square हो गया. Then we have plus 2 into p into q into x. तो ये सब तो हो गया. Again, now for q, जैसे कि for r I said that you don't need to sit and actually calculate कि क्या होना चाहिए. You can simply do a shortcut. क्या है? Our final aim is -13 for 2pq. 2pq should be -13. 2p already कितना आ गया? 2√3. एक तो है कि साइड में यू सॉल्व फॉर q. दैट इज वन वे ऑफ डूइंग इट. द अदर वे इज यू सिंपली राइट ओवर हियर -13 डिवाइडेड बाय 2√3, क्योंकि बैलेंसिंग हो गया. हाँ, 2√3 ऑलरेडी जब हम लोग डाल दिए तो -13 में वी कैन सिंपली डिवाइड दैट. दैट विल बी द वैल्यू फॉर q. Whichever one you are comfortable with, you can continue using that method. So now we know the value of q also. What will be q square? Q square will be 13 square by 12, 2 square and √3 ka square. So this is q square. Here we complete our square. Bacha kya? What is the constant we added in? 13 square by 12. So we will have to subtract 13 square by 12, and we already have a plus 1. We already have a plus 1 lying over here. तो हम लोग का px plus q whole square क्या बन रहे हैं? p is √3x and q is -13 by 2√3. इसका स्क्वायर. एंड व्हाट इज r? r is -13 square by 12 plus 1. कितना होता है? 13 square is 169. 169 by 12 plus 1, तो 169 plus 12 कितना? ठीक है. Now if we try solving for x, √3x minus 13 by 2√3 is equal to 157 by 12 का square root plus minus x is equal to 13 by 2√3 plus minus and whole divided by √3. ये वाला √3 जाएगा उस तरफ. तो क्या आ रहा है आंसर? सिंप्लीफाई करेंगे, होल डिवाइडेड बाय √3 करेंगे, √3 विल कम अप. तो व्हाट इज द फाइनल आंसर? यही आंसर होगा. अंशुमन, आई थिंक यू मिस्ड समवेयर. आपका 13 कहीं पे तो 1 गायब हो गया एंड ओनली द 3 वाज लेफ्ट, बिकॉज द आंसर विल बी √150. 13 minus √157/6 एंड दूसरा वाला ये भी +13 ही होगा. Okay. Those who could not understand pehle, have you been able to understand a bit more now? Ki what are we trying to do? Anyone who still has doubts? Let's do the remaining 2 questions also. 16x square. क्या एक बार क्वेश्चन बोलो ना. 16x square plus 17x plus 2 is equal to 0. I want you all to tell me how are we breaking it up into a square. What is p?
4.
Plus 2 into p into what? 17/8. What is q square? 17/8 square. ये हम लोग का हो गया square complete. We added a 17/8 square, so we'll subtract a 17/8 square. Plus 2 already lying there with us. Seventeen square 289. 289 and 8 square is 64. कितना आ रहा है कांस्टेंट? 64 64 128, 289 and 128 161. So this becomes 161/64. तो x is equal to क्या आ रहे हैं x के वैल्यूज? थर्ड वन क्या था? थर्ड क्वेश्चन बोलने का. x square plus p square कितना है? 2 into p into 4 by 2, minus, sorry, plus 4 by 2 square. इसको हम लोग 2 लिख सकते हैं. Minus 4 minus 8 is 12. ठीक है. अच्छा, these values we are not simplifying. कैलकुलेटर पे डाल के you can just write the final answer. Don't leave it at this. Obviously ऐसे भी जहाँ पे required होगा वहाँ पे final answer ही जाएगा. Clear? अभी तक anyone has doubts in completing the squares? हाँ, एक सेकंड. इसमें 2 root 3 and root 3, हाँ 2 होना चाहिए ये. एक सेकंड. हम्म. ओके, चलो. The last small part in quadratic equations, it is sum and product of roots. So now we know कि 2 roots होगा. If we add up both roots, what are we going to get? Let's say 2 roots are alpha and beta. So alpha plus beta is equal to minus b by a, and alpha into beta is equal to c by a. Again this is coming from the quadratic formula only. उससे ही derive होके आ रहे हैं. What is the use case of this? Sometimes you might know the roots but you don't know what is the quadratic, or you need to form the quadratic to work on a bigger problem. तो उन cases में using the roots, this is how you can do a quadratic. Now how will you arrive at the quadratic equation? We have minus b by a and we have c by a. This is a concept from simultaneous equations which we'll do tomorrow. But logically, if I have minus b by a and I divide c by a, तो a कट हो जाएगा. हाँ, we'll have minus b by c. Or what else can you do? You can calculate the value of a from this and substitute it over here. Multiple ways. अभी example के through we will see how can we form the quadratic equation. एक बार I'm erasing this. Let's do the example. Let's say we have two roots, 4 and minus 3. We have 4 and minus 3. We need to form a quadratic equation जिसका nature will be ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0. Now how do we do this? What is going to be minus b by a? Minus b by a is equal to 4 minus 3, 1. C by a is equal to 4 into minus 3, which is 12. अब इसमें let's say we divide this entire equation by a. Again हम लोग कोई भी चीज से divide कर सकते हैं. तो this equation becomes x square plus b by a x plus c by a Right? Do we have b by a? Do we have c by a? So can we put these values? याद रखना, this is minus b by a and we need plus b by a. X square minus b by a is 1. तो इसलिए plus b by a will be minus 1. And c by a is minus 12. So this will be minus 12. Any doubt? तो this is our quadratic. X square minus x minus 12. ये 1 को हटा देते हैं. Let's give you one sum for practice. Alpha and beta are the roots. Try doing it not by solving the equation, but actually by using this logic. You have to calculate alpha square plus beta square.
Ma'am, it will be 5 alpha plus beta.
Thank you. हुआ सबसे? Anyone who was facing any issues? Anyone who faced any issues? All clear? Whatever we did today, any concept which you want me to repeat or explain again? Everything is good? Great. ठीक है. So simultaneous equations we'll do tomorrow and then we'll move on with other topics, etc. Let's keep it till here today. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.